Most people will spend their entire lives chasing money, only to die without ever understanding why it always stayed just beyond their reach. They work harder, they wake up earlier, they sacrifice weekends, they pray for opportunities, they wait for luck, yet somehow they remain trapped in the same cycle. Meanwhile, another man quietly walks into the room, says very little, makes a few calculated decisions, and within a few years has accumulated more wealth than others will earn in a lifetime. What separates these two people? It isn't intelligence, it isn't talent, and it certainly isn't luck. It is a way of thinking so uncomfortable, so ruthless, that most people reject it before they ever experience its power. Niccolò Machiavelli understood something about human nature that still terrifies people today. He knew that wealth is rarely created by those who deserve it the most. It is usually captured by those who understand power better than everyone else. The world does not reward effort. It rewards leverage. That is why millions remain poor despite working every day. This video is not about becoming greedy. It is not about cheating people. It is about seeing the hidden rules that govern wealth. The rules that powerful people quietly follow while everyone else argues about fairness. If you ignore these principles, you will continue playing a game designed for someone else's victory. But if you understand them, you'll never look at money, business, influence, or success the same way again. Until the end. Because the ninth principle is the one almost nobody talks about. It is the difference between people who become temporarily wealthy and those whose wealth continues growing while they sleep. Now, let's begin. Principle 1. Stop selling time. Start owning outcomes. The poor man sells hours, the wealthy man sells results. This sounds simple, but it changes everything. Think carefully. Every hour you sell has a limit. There are only 24 hours in a day. No matter how disciplined you become, no matter how hard you work, your income eventually reaches a ceiling. This is why millions of hard-working people never escape financial struggle. They believe more effort automatically creates more wealth. Machiavelli would have laughed at this belief. Power never comes from exhausting yourself. Power comes from positioning yourself so others create value for you. Kings did not become kings because they worked harder than farmers. They became kings because they controlled the system that farmers worked inside. The modern version is no different. The employee trades time. The business owner builds systems. The investor owns assets. The creator builds audiences. The wealthy ask one question every morning: how can today's effort continue paying me years from now? The poor ask, how many hours do I need to survive this month? Notice the difference. One thinks about permanence. The other thinks about survival. Survival creates dependence. Ownership creates freedom. This is why rich people obsess over businesses. Stocks, real estate, digital products, intellectual property, licensing, brands, communities. Anything capable of producing income long after today's work is finished. The average person thinks earning more money is the goal. It isn't. The real goal is creating machines that continue producing money without demanding your constant attention. Every wealthy empire began with one simple decision: to stop renting out life and start owning the engine that generates value. This is the first ruthless principle. Your labor will never make you rich, your ownership might. Principle 2. Protect your attention like a kingdom. Before money leaves your wallet, your attention leaves your mind, and attention is infinitely more valuable, because wherever attention goes, money eventually follows. The modern world is designed to make you mentally poor before it makes you financially poor. Notifications, arguments, celebrity gossip, political outrage, infinite scrolling, endless entertainment. Every distraction steals a piece of your future. Machiavelli understood that whoever controls perception controls behavior. Today, algorithms compete harder for your attention than companies compete for your money, because they understand something most people don't. If they own your focus, they eventually own your decisions. The wealthy become incredibly selective, not because they're antisocial, but because they know every unnecessary distraction delays financial growth. They consume information that improves judgment, not information that stimulates emotion. While others spend hours watching strangers become successful, the disciplined person spends those same hours becoming valuable. Months later, one has memories, the other has assets. Ask yourself honestly, where has your attention gone during the last 12 months? Has it built your future or entertained your present? The answer explains more about your finances than your salary ever will. The richest people in the world are not always the smartest. They are often the most focused, and focus is becoming rarer every year. The fewer people possess it, the more valuable it becomes. Continue watching, because the next principle explains why being liked often keeps people poor. Principle 3. Stop needing approval. The fastest way to stay poor is to build your life around other people's opinions. Most people don't realize how expensive approval really is. They buy cars they cannot afford, wear clothes they don't need, attend events they don't enjoy, choose careers they secretly hate, and remain trapped in lifestyles designed to impress people who barely think about them. Machiavelli understood that public admiration is often a dangerous addiction. The crowd praises what feels comfortable, but wealth is rarely created inside comfort. Every great fortune begins with decisions that look strange to ordinary people. When you invest while others spend, they laugh. When you work on your business instead of partying, they call you obsessed. When you disappear to learn valuable skills, they assume you've failed. But years later, those same people wonder how your life changed so dramatically. The truth is uncomfortable. Most people would rather stay accepted than become successful. Because rejection hurts immediately, poverty hurts slowly. One feels painful today, the other destroys decades. And humans almost always choose the pain they can avoid now over the suffering they'll experience later. That is why crowds rarely become wealthy. The crowd moves emotionally. The wealthy moves strategically. Ask yourself a difficult question. If nobody could see your life, would you still spend money the same way? Would you still chase the same goals? Would you still buy the same things? If the answer is no, then your financial decisions are not your own. They're controlled by invisible social pressure. The ruthless become financially independent because they stop asking, "What will people think?" and start asking, "What creates long-term power?" Approval never paid a bill. Validation never built an empire. Principle 4. Learn to see what others ignore. Money follows problems. Big money follows invisible problems. The average person notices what everyone else notices. They copy trends, follow crowded opportunities, and arrive long after the rewards have disappeared. The wealthy train themselves differently. They look where nobody else is looking. Every successful business exists because someone noticed something most people ignored. A frustration, an inefficiency, a delay, a need, a habit. Where ordinary people complain, powerful people investigate. Because every complaint hides a market. Every inconvenience hides an opportunity. Every weakness in a system hides profit for the person willing to solve it. Machiavelli believed that advantage belongs to the observer, not the loudest man, not the strongest, the one who sees reality before everyone else. Pay attention to what people constantly struggle with. Listen carefully to what they complain about. Observe where businesses fail. Notice what wastes time. Ask yourself one question every single day. How can this be done better? That single question has created millionaires, billion-dollar companies, and industries that never existed before. The poor consume solutions. The wealthy create them. One spends money, the other attracts it. That difference compounds over an entire lifetime. Principle 5. Become difficult to replace. Most people compete by lowering their value. They charge less, work harder, accept worse conditions, beg for opportunities, and then wonder why nobody respects them. Machiavelli understood that power comes from necessity. The moment people need you more than you need them, the balance changes. That is why wealthy individuals become exceptional at something valuable, not average at everything. They possess knowledge, skills, connections, or experience that cannot easily be copied. When you become replaceable, your income becomes negotiable. When you become rare, your value becomes undeniable. Ask yourself honestly, if you disappeared tomorrow, how difficult would it be for someone to replace what you offer? If the answer is very easy, then your first investment should not be another gadget. It should be yourself. Master communication, master sales, master leadership, master negotiation, master technology, master problem solving. The market pays extraordinary rewards to ordinary people who become extraordinary in one critical area. The wealthy don't chase money. They become the type of person money naturally follows. Because value always attracts opportunity. And opportunity eventually attracts wealth. Most people spend years asking, how do I make more money? A better question is, how do I become impossible to ignore? That single shift changes everything. Because once your value increases, income eventually follows, not immediately, but inevitably, and that is how real wealth begins to separate itself from temporary success. There is still far more to uncover, because the next principle explains why many people finally earn good money, yet somehow stay broke anyway. Principle 6. Master delayed gratification. The greatest difference between the wealthy and the poor is not income, it is patience. Give two people the same amount of money. One spends it to feel rich today. The other invests it to become rich tomorrow. 5 years later, their lives are unrecognizable. Machiavelli understood that power belongs to those who can sacrifice immediate pleasure for lasting dominance. Most people cannot. They want success to arrive as quickly as a notification on their phone. They expect wealth to appear after a few months of effort, and when it doesn't, they quit. The wealthy understand a brutal truth. Compounding rewards the patient and punishes the impulsive. Every dollar invested, every skill mastered, every relationship nurtured, every disciplined decision. It seems insignificant in the beginning, but time transforms small advantages into massive fortunes. This is why ordinary people underestimate consistency. They only notice dramatic success. They never witness the quiet years that created it. A tree does not become enormous overnight. Its strength comes from thousands of unseen days beneath the soil. Your financial life works the same way. Most people destroy their future because they cannot tolerate temporary discomfort. They spend today's seed and wonder why tomorrow's harvest never arrives. Every unnecessary purchase asks one silent question. Would you rather impress someone for a moment, or change your life forever? The wealthy answer that question differently. They understand that every sacrifice made today purchases freedom tomorrow, and freedom is always worth more than comfort. Principle 7. Never depend on one source of income. Dependence is weakness. Whether it is dependence on one employer, one custom, one investment, or one opportunity, the moment your survival depends on a single source, you surrender your power. Machiavelli warned rulers never to place their fate entirely in another man's hands. The same principle governs wealth. Imagine waking up tomorrow to discover your only source of income has disappeared. How long could you survive? For many people, the answer is frightening. Weeks, perhaps only days. That is not security. That is vulnerability disguised as stability. The wealthy quietly build multiple streams. A business, investments, dividends, rental income, digital products, royalties, consulting, partnerships. Each stream may begin small, but together they create resilience. If one weakens, the others continue flowing. That is how fortunes survive economic crises while ordinary incomes collapse. The goal is not simply earning more. It is making yourself difficult to financially destroy. Powerful people don't ask, how can I make more money? They ask, how can I make money from more places? That question changes your entire financial strategy. Eventually, money begins working from multiple directions, instead of depending entirely on your next paycheck. That is financial power. Principle 8. Control your emotions before they control your wallet. Markets rise, markets fall, businesses succeed, businesses fail. People panic, people celebrate. The average person reacts emotionally. The wealthy respond strategically. Fear has destroyed more fortunes than recession. Ego has bankrupted more people than poverty. Greed has ruined more investors than bad opportunities. Machiavelli knew that the man who cannot govern himself will eventually be governed by circumstances. This applies perfectly to money. People buy because others are buying. They sell because everyone else is afraid. They quit because progress feels slow. They borrow because they crave status. Every emotional decision leaves a financial scar. The disciplined individual pauses, observes, calculates, then acts. This creates an enormous advantage, because while everyone else is driven by impulse, you become driven by reason. Imagine negotiating a deal. The emotional person rushes to avoid discomfort. The disciplined person remains silent. The emotional person reveals desperation. The disciplined person reveals confidence. Silence often earns more than speaking. Patience often earns more than speed. Control often earns more than aggression. The strongest position in any financial situation belongs to the person least controlled by emotion. That is true power, and very few people ever develop it, which brings us to the final principle, the one that quietly separates temporary success from generational wealth. Principle 9. Build an empire that no longer needs you. Most people dream of becoming rich. Very few dream of becoming unnecessary. That is why they remain trapped. If your business stops the moment you stop, you don't own a business. You own another job. If your income disappears the moment you rest, you have built a cage instead of freedom. Machiavelli understood that true rulers built systems that survived them. Their influence continued even when they were absent. Their kingdoms operated without constant supervision. Modern wealth follows the same law. The wealthy build organizations, processes, teams, brands, assets, investments, systems that continue creating value whether they are present or not. That is why some families remain wealthy for generations, not because they work harder, but because they built structures stronger than any single individual. This is the highest form of financial intelligence. To create something that outlives your effort, outlives your energy, perhaps even outlives your lifetime. Because real wealth is not measured by how much money you make, it is measured by how long your money continues working after you've stopped. That is the difference between income and legacy, between success and power, between surviving and ruling. The world tells you to work harder. Machiavelli whispers something far more dangerous. Think deeper, move slower, observe longer, own more, depend less, and never confuse movement with progress. Because the richest people are rarely the busiest. They are the most strategic. Most people will hear these principles, agree with them, and then return to the same habits that keep them financially trapped. A small few will act. Those few will slowly separate themselves from the crowd. Years from now, people will call them lucky. They will never see the discipline, the patience, the sacrifices, or the ruthless decisions that created their success. That is the secret. Wealth is rarely built in public. It is built quietly, decision by decision, while everyone else is distracted. And perhaps that is the greatest deception of all. People believe wealth begins with money. It doesn't. Wealth begins with identity. The moment you stop thinking like the crowd, you stop living like the crowd. Every empire in history was built first in the mind of one person who refused to accept ordinary limits. Machiavelli never suggested that the world was fair. He understood that fairness is a comforting story people tell themselves when they don't understand power. The world rewards those who see it clearly, not those who wish it were different. That realization is uncomfortable, but it is also liberating, because once you stop blaming luck, the economy, your background, or other people, you reclaim the only thing that has ever truly belonged to you, your choices. And choices repeated over months become habits. Habits repeated over years become character. Character eventually becomes destiny. Every wealthy person you admire once stood where you are now, confused, uncertain, unknown. The difference is that they made decisions the average person refused to make. They read while others scrolled. They invested while others consumed. They listened while others argued. They built while others complained. None of those decisions felt extraordinary in the moment, but over time, they created an extraordinary life. Remember this. Money is attracted to competence. Power is attracted to discipline. Influence is attracted to consistency. These are not gifts, they are choices. And every single day, the world quietly asks you one question. Will you build your future, or will you spend it? Most people answer without realizing it. Every unnecessary distraction, every excuse, every impulsive purchase, every hour wasted, every opportunity ignored. Each one is a vote for the life they will eventually live. The frightening part is that destiny is rarely decided by one massive decision. It is shaped by thousands of invisible ones. That is why transformation feels slow, until one day it feels sudden. People will say you changed overnight. They will admire the confidence they never saw you building. They will notice the wealth they never saw you creating. They will envy the freedom they never saw you earning. What they call luck, you will recognize as preparation. What they call talent, you will recognize as discipline. What they call privilege, you will recognize as years of calculated decisions made when nobody was watching. That is the quiet advantage of those who understand power. They do not chase appearances. They chase foundations, because foundations cannot be faked. A luxury car can be borrowed. Designer clothes can be purchased with debt. A lavish lifestyle can be performed for strangers. But genuine financial freedom cannot be counterfeited. It reveals itself in peace, in options, in independence, in the ability to walk away from bad opportunities without fear. That is real wealth. To wake up each morning knowing your decisions are no longer controlled by desperation. To negotiate without begging. To invest without panic. To give without expecting anything in return. To sleep without worrying whether one setback will destroy everything you've built. That is the kind of power Machiavelli admired. Not loud power, quiet power. The kind that does not need recognition because its results speak loudly enough. So before you leave this video, ask yourself one final question. If you continue making the exact same financial decisions you've made over the last 12 months, where will you be 5 years from now? Not where you hope to be. Not where you dream of being. Where will your current habits actually take you? Your answer may be uncomfortable, But discomfort is where transformation begins. Because the future is not created by wishing, it is created by what you repeatedly do after everyone else has lost motivation. The crowd will continue chasing quick money, quick fame, quick pleasure, quick success, and they will continue wondering why lasting wealth always escapes them. But those who master patience, discipline, leverage, and strategic thinking will quietly build lives that no economic storm can easily destroy. The choice has always been yours. Most people simply never realize they have one. If you choose differently starting today, the next chapter of your life may look nothing like the last, and that is where true wealth begins.